I don't consider myself as an activist, pero para mí es muy importante alzar la voz. Y bueno, yo actualmente tengo casi 33 años y mi hermano menor también es parte de la comunidad LGBT. Él ha sido como mi inspiración porque él es abiertamente gay desde que tenía 16 años. Para mí fue un poco más complicado el tema de mi aceptación, pero para no abarcar mucho tiempo, como ya lo comentaste, Joana, yo decido como em, decir abiertamente al mundo que soy parte de la comunidad en París 2024 con la propuesta de matrimonio que le hice a Jessica, que también es mi entrenadora y ella compite conmigo. Y para mí, claro que al principio fue complicado eh, cuando estaba entrenando y compitiendo los primeros años, pero porque creo que como muchos de nosotros como deportistas muchas veces tenemos miedo a ser nosotros mismos porque tenemos miedo de perder patrocinadores o tenemos miedo de que nos juzguen por nuestra orientación sexual, pero cuando yo em, hago esta propuesta de matrimonio no sabía el alcance tan grande que iba a tener y estoy muy orgullosa de haberlo hecho en ese momento porque Jessica compite conmigo en el paratriatlón y ella me esperó al final de la meta y pues yo lo hice, la verdad es que como un acto de amor hacia ella y a partir de ahí hemos inspirado y motivado a muchos jóvenes atletas a ser ellos mismos y bueno, así ha sido un poco como mi camino en el deporte, siendo parte de la comunidad y como les comentaba, me gustaría involucrarme más y luchar por nuestros derechos porque creo que hoy en día todavía es muy importante tener representación y que nuevas generaciones vean que ser tú mismo es tu mayor poder.
Increíble. Muchas gracias, Brenda. So Brenda was talking a bit about how she never expected that her proposal would have such a big impact, and that there was also a lot of fear around how people would judge her and how sponsors would judge her. Uh, Tocarra, would you like to go next and introduce yourself? And also, I'd love to hear if anything that Brenda said resonated with you.
Absolutely. Hi, good humans. My name is Tocarra Ross. Like Joanna said, I am a former Virginia pro, also now an assistant coach and assistant GM for an amazing new development league here that is giving women's basketball just another opportunity to play in the States, to make some money, and just to develop the game beyond the W. It's an opportunity league. And for someone who has played for a long time and didn't have that opportunity to be able to play domestically all the time, I'm super excited to provide this space here in the States for the current pros and the next generation of pros to play in front of their family, in front of their friends, because a lot of hoopers know that a lot of part of our career is overseas. And when you are overseas, it takes you out of market and you have to develop these brands and all these other spaces. So again, just super excited to be able to start something new and curate this space for pro athletes in the women's basketball realm. As far as my journey, I honestly think I've been so blessed with the people in my community that coming out and being in this body was never really an issue for me. And I recognize the privilege in that I had people who just loved me as me. And so when it came to being out and taking up space, the people around me wanted me to just flourish in my body. And I am, again, beyond grateful to have been able to do that. So as a pro, as an athlete, I've been able to just show up just unequivocally as myself, and to be able to do that as a coach and to create that space for the current players, I really do think is one of my superpowers, because I'm so secure in my body and who I am, which has also taken work. I do my best to show up in that space and make sure that my athletes and the pros that I get to coach get to do that in the same respect. And I think that shows up in ways that we get to love on them, in the ways we get to teach them, and those different connection pieces that we get to apply to them every day. Again, there is privilege in that, and I recognize that, but I also want to be able to use this platform to show up in the queer community as a Black woman in this space, because the women's basketball space is very Black and brown. So being able to stand in that space and be able to provide that same confidence, I surely hope that it provides that space for my players. So on the other side of that, I love, Brenda, I just love just the overall encompassing of like not really knowing how it would turn out and what that would look like for you, but embracing that process for yourself. I think as queer people, we don't always get to make a choice of what that coming out process gets to look like. And we forget sometimes that we have to give ourselves a little grace when it comes to not only the acceptance of everyone around you, but the acceptance for yourself. And so it resonated with me that you took that on with such grace in that process.
So well said, Tocarra. And I love how you talked about intersectionality and also about like the perspective you have now as a coach. I think that's really important, because now it's like you're in a position where you can play a role in cultivating other players' experiences. And like, that's so cool. Like, I love knowing that you're a coach, because like I just think like being able to be that person for athletes to look out and be like, okay, I'm in a safe space here. Like, that just means so much. Raven, how about you? Would love to hear about how your journey's been.
Hey, you guys, Olympic silver medalist, 3-time Olympian, going for 4th, LA 28, baby, you know. But man, like both of your stories resonate so well with me. From Brenda not really realizing to Tocarra also having a safe space. Initially for me, I was outed in middle school. No, I lied, elementary school. I was outed and I was re-outed again in middle school. So the closet hasn't been friendly to me in my journey, but in a way, it's allowed for me a chance and time to grow into my own, so that when I came into sport, I was able to show up in sport as myself unapologetically. And especially in a sport such as track and field, there's so many different events. So in a way, it's like, I'll find some place for myself to fit in, because there's so many different spaces. And then going through, college and just really, in a way of Brenda, just being there. I was just being present. I really didn't care what people thought of me, because I was here to do my job. My happiness came from within myself and within my community. And as I got older and then started mentoring some of the high schoolers who, in a way they didn't have that, or they've asked me certain questions. I'm like, oh, I remember when I was a baby gay and I was asking, how do you get through this? And I'm like, oh, I'm one of those. So really being able to be that person by just showing up. The last Olympics, the amount of people from different countries, and some of them aren't very accepting, who gain power and strength from me telling them, just be you. It was very powerful and inspirational. And now being able to be, a veteran in my sport and being able to take on that role, and people understanding that it's not easy, all the time being a queer athlete. I remember that there were times where I had friends who told me that, in their contracts, it said that they don't want them to openly be with the same-sex gender, or there were certain things and parameters about how they appeared. And that was not that long ago, maybe 2015, 16-ish. So to say that was still like relatively new, and then being in the current state that we are in, to where certain rights and certain things are still trying to be, rolled back. I take more pride in standing on that activist title, of being able to speak out against injustice, being able to point out that we need more, being able to speak out that, hey, create these spaces, curate these spaces, and support these spaces has been one of my favorite parts of being a part of this community. Because we're here, we're loud, we're proud, and we're happy about it. You can't deny it. So that's my part.
I love that. First of all, I'm sorry that you were outed, because that really sucks. I mean, that should never, it's such a personal decision to come out and when to come out. And the fact that that was taken from you is really horrible. I love what you said about like the impact you're having on fans who are watching you, because I think that is so important. Like for people to be able, I think especially for like LGBTQ youth, when they're looking at sports and they're thinking like, is this even something I can aspire to? Is there even going to be a space for me? And then they see someone like you who isn't afraid to be who you are and is excelling in sport. That just means so much. And I think that's incredible. Something I wanted to ask you a follow-up question about, you talked about how there are some sponsors who will like put wild things in contracts around like people not being able to be visible. And also it sounds like also talking about like gender expression, right? Like how people are able to express that part of themselves. How have you navigated that? And like how do you recommend that someone go about finding a sponsor or a brand that actually aligns with their values?
It's honestly, it's tough. It's very tough. And why I say be yourself is because sometimes you yourself and your personality can be bigger than the program to the point that you can't be denied. And that for me was what I had to understand going into a sport of track and field where it's slim, it's, you know, a certain look, it's a certain aesthetic. This is what they promote. This is on who's on the billboards, who's on the posters. So I was like, how can I be me enough that they have no other choice but to put me out there? And that's how I was able to navigate that space. But when it comes to other athletes trying to find other brands, you just have to find brands that have put the money where their mouth is, that have done the work, that are sponsoring certain things, that are a part of these things. But it is a little bit difficult. It is a little bit difficult to be able to do that. But there are people out there, there are groups out there, and don't feel hopeless or defeated just because someone doesn't, because what's for you is what's for you, and what's not, it's not. And if it's not in alignment, there's no point in crying and stressing over it, because when one door closes, you will have 10 more open up.
That is such a good point. It's about finding the people who align with you and who share those values.
Absolutely.
Tocarra, would love to turn back to you because, you know, now with you on like the leadership side in women's sports, I know, I mean, you've played at so many countries. I'm sure you've seen so many different iterations of what a team or a league can be like when it comes to supporting LGBTQ athletes. Having lived through all that, and now with the expertise that you have now, what do you think is the best way to set up a culture of inclusion?
I'm really big on if you can see her, you can be her. And so I try to make sure, I think one of my biggest assets for sure is whether I'm a coach or whether I'm on the front office side, is making sure that I bring these athletes, whether it's, you know, a female athlete, whether it's a Black athlete, whether it's a queer athlete, into the spaces where we're making those decisions. I do not feel that it is right to make decisions without having those perspectives. So what I have learned over the plethora of teams that I played in noticing the cross communication between these type of organizations is you have to have someone, you have to have an athlete bring their perspective in that, because we don't know everything. I'm grateful that I have a little bit of both of that experience, but it still does, it still affects the current athlete and how they navigate that space. So first and foremost, curating those experiences where they feel welcome to chime in and give that feedback is really important. And in letting them know that you hear them and that they're valid within those decisions that we have to make, because at the end of the day, I'm no longer playing. I am making decisions on behalf of them. So I think that's super important. And the other side of that is just continually to stay engaged and ahead of the times and what that culture looks like for that prospective athlete. What I did 15 years ago, granted, I just finished playing 4 years ago. So I'm in the scenic space of like, okay, I did display. So I touched a little bit of what's happening now. And I'm also in this leadership. I still think you have to stand in the gap between both. I'm here and then I need to bring someone with me who can also contribute to the decisions that we are making. That's with brands. That's with things that are on the court that are affecting them. All of those encompass better decision making for me as a leader. And also, again, just bringing them along in the conversation has to be really important. I truly think that a lot of leagues and brands fail when they do not get that athlete's perspective and when they do not bring that queer perspective into that, especially if that's at the forefront of your brand.
That is so well said. And something you touched on that I think is really important is like queer people, LGBTQ people are not a monolith, and like we need to keep learning and growing. I mean, I know that I, as a white cis queer woman, I'm not an expert in everyone's experience. And I just think, you know, that I love that you touched on that like we need to keep learning from the people around us and understanding how to best be creating that culture of inclusion that truly is including everyone. And, you know, I want to talk a little bit more about intersectionality and, you know, Brenda, so voy a decir en inglés y después en español. I'm going to say this first in English. So Brenda, your finish line proposal, like you talked about, went viral at the Paris Paralympics. And I'm curious to talk a little bit about how international sports bodies and sponsors can better support that intersection of LGBTQ and para athletes, not just during Pride Month, but all year round. So Brenda, tu propuesta de matrimonio viral en la línea de captó la atención del mundo entero. ¿Cómo pueden los organismos deportivos internacionales y los patrocinadores apoyar mejor la intersección entre las comunidades LGBTQ y de los deportistas paralímpicos durante todo el año, no solo en junio?
Sí, bueno, primero que nada, yo creo que el apoyo debe existir durante todo el año, no solamente en el Pride, y no solo durante fechas específicas. Y bueno, como atleta paralímpica y mujer orgullosamente lesbiana, yo he aprendido que la representación importa y cuando las organizaciones y las marcas muestran historias diversas, crean muchas oportunidades y también fomentan espacios seguros e inclusivos. Y también ayudan justo a que las personas seamos vistas y seamos valoradas. Entonces también es importante que el apoyo se traduzca en acciones concretas, como por ejemplo programas o becas y visibilidad para atletas de las comunidades que han sido mayormente pues como no visibles. En este caso, Raven y yo tenemos esta interseccionalidad de ser atletas con alguna discapacidad, mujeres, parte de la comunidad LGBT, y eso incrementa muchas veces el riesgo de discriminación, de odio, de prejuicios. Y algo que, bueno, en lo personal yo he vivido junto con Jessica es que muchas veces piensan que yo estoy con ella porque no tuve como otra opción, o por ejemplo, es que estoy con ella porque ella es mi cuidadora, pero no se dan cuenta que también las personas con una discapacidad tenemos derecho a amar y ser amados, y que bueno, yo estoy con ella porque la amo y por una decisión, y que ella está conmigo porque así lo decidió ella también, y creo que es muy importante pues seguir contando esas historias y que las marcas y las organizaciones, las instituciones sigan visibilizando nuestras historias.
Gracias. Y me gusta que has dicho que los patrocinadores necesitan mostrar acción en vez de simplemente palabras, porque pienso que muchas veces puede ser una cosa para un día en redes sociales, pero no hay
Sí.
acción fija. Sí. Sí. So quiero movernos. I want to move us into a little bit of a rapid fire. So vamos a empezar una sección de ronda rápida. Just going to bring the energy up a little bit. So I think maybe the best way to do this, for each one, I'll say it first in English and then in Spanish. So para cada uno voy a decir primero en inglés y después en español. And if you all could just try to answer just the first things that pop into your head. Intenten responder todo lo más brevemente posible para esta sección. So, one word to describe the queer community in sports. Una palabra para describir la comunidad queer en el deporte.
I think we're audacious, especially this generation. They're taking no for answers. You know, they are showing up in the most audacious way, I think, in history that we have. And it makes people real uncomfortable, but it is what it is.
What a great word. I love that. Okay.
I was going to say free. So yeah, she took the words out of my mouth.
That's a good one too.
Yes.
Yo voy a decir resiliente. Resiliente, porque
Resilient.
creo que es una lucha que tenemos que seguir insistiendo y persistiendo y a pesar de cualquier obstáculo.
I love it. What is a hype song that makes you feel invincible? Una canción que te haga sentir invencible.
My House by Beyonce.
Great one. Oh, what a good song.
Creo que para mí es muy clásica, Titanium, decía, con
Oh,
David.
Sia. Yes, Titanium by Sia. Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I have a song, but it's something Beyonce.
That's good. All of Beyonce. That works too. What's an LGBTQ stereotype that's true for you? Like you hauling with a partner, for example. ¿Qué es una estereotipo LGBTQ que sea cierto en tu caso? Por ejemplo, irse a vivir con una pareja después de una cita.
Nobody wants to answer?
Bueno, yo le hice una propuesta de matrimonio a mi entrenadora, entonces creo que ese equipo es muy bueno. Y a los 3 meses de conocernos, nos fuimos a vivir juntas.
There you go.
Entonces,
After 3 months of dating, they moved in together. That fits.
I got a list, but I don't know.
Yeah, I do think it's like that too. Like, I think maybe not the U-Haul expression, but like, I do think we love out loud when we can't.
Yes.
And that's why you see people, getting married after a couple of months. We have spent a lot of our lives being so unsure about ourselves that we know when we know something. So why are we going to wait?
Exactly.
I like that perspective. It's not like we're rushing. We just know. We just
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
I guess I got married young.
Okay.
But yeah.
And you like sports. We all like sports.
Oh, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
What about your favorite LGBTQ actor or musician? Tu actor o músico LGBTQ favorito?
It was that guy, Daddy, watch me twirl.
I have no idea who that is, but it sounds awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Outside of that though,
I'm trying to think.
hmm.
Because
Laverne Cox would definitely be my drama because that representation in Orange is the New Black, especially as a coming into my own queer. You know, I was high school going into college when that show came out. So like that level of representation, especially in the trans community, I feel like for me was very eye-opening. It made me grow a deeper appreciation too for the T in the LGBTQ community.
Absolutely. I love Laverne Cox.
Yeah, Steve.
Por mí, Ricky Martin. Y también no es música, pero Amber Glenn creo que hizo una gran representación y un gran trabajo ahora en los Juegos Olímpicos de Invierno. Y bueno, ahora soy fan también de Tocarra y de Raven.
Oh, I love that. Hicimos una entrevista con Amber Glenn durante los Olímpicos. I love that.
I think Duran is really good too. Like Duran, I love him because he just, when you talk about audacious,
Yes.
and he does it in such a way where it's like a couple parts. He uplifts the community. He'll call you out. He'll call you up. And he's just, if anyone is ever looking for someone who just knows themselves and is so willing to stand in their truth, it's totally him, Duran Bernard.
Yes. He is the queer community. Like wrapped up into one.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to jump into one that's a little bit different. What is the worst way that someone could react when you come out to them? ¿Cuál es la peor forma en que alguien puede reaccionar cuando sales de closet?
I think it was people assuming that I liked them just because we were the same gender. Like that was like
Right.
you're not my type. Like
Yeah.
I would never, I'm sorry.
I just wanted you to quit it. I just wanted to let you know. Yeah.
Y o también tratándote diferente o cuestionando quién eres, porque una orientación sexual no te define, es parte de ti, pero no es un todo.
Well said. She said a sexual orientation doesn't define you. It's just part of you. I totally agree.
I struggle with people wanting to be right about things. And like I always tell myself, I'd rather be wrong than unwilling. So people who are unwilling in the experience versus just like accepting you in your experience, just key indicator. I'm good. Shouldn't have told you.
And now what's one thing, like when you think back at yourself as a teenager, what's one thing you would tell your younger self now about like the journey that lays ahead? ¿Qué te darías a tú mismo como atleta joven?
It gets easier.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's more so with self-acceptance, self-love, and community building. But it definitely gets easier.
Well said.
I just had some random thought of like, so we tell our players all the time when it comes to getting better to like, they got to be delusional. You got to be so delusional about getting better. So I think I would tell myself like, girl, you just got to be delusional about how you love yourself and how you show up. Like as a 40-year-old, I think about that all the time. I'm like, okay, when I'm having a bad day or something, I'm like, girl, be delusional. Like, get through this. So like, be delusional in the best way possible to get you through the hard stuff.
So like make the delusion come true. Like,
because most of the times that's a hack. Because delusion makes you, it like triggers something in you, like the right type of delusion. Triggers something in you that makes you work hard, that makes you love better, that makes you show up in these spaces so much better. It's how deliberate you are with the delusion and how safe you are with the delusion.
and then you manifest it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yo le diría believe in you y be yourself since the beginning. Cree en ti y sé tú mismo desde el principio, porque muchas veces, bueno, yo admiro mucho eso de los atletas de Estados Unidos, por ejemplo, que siento que tienen mucha confianza en sí mismos y en nuestro caso muchas veces como que me ha tocado verlo con los atletas mexicanos que no confían en sus capacidades o no confiamos, entonces creo que eso le diría, no solamente como por la orientación sexual, sino también en general para ser un atleta de alto nivel, pues tienes que confiar en ti mismo.
Believe in yourself. Yes, I love that.
Yourself, you're right.
Okay, and last one. In one word, what does pride mean? So en una palabra, ¿qué significa el orgullo?
Orgullo para mí significa ser auténtico y vivir sin miedo.
I love that.
Bueno, porque el miedo está ahí, pero tienes que enfrentarlo.
She said, the fear is there. You have to face it. I love that because that's true. The fear is not going to go away, but it's what we do with it.
Oh, this is tough. Like, oh,
There's so many. I think.
like,
Go ahead, Raven.
no, you go.
I'll go.
Like-
Love for me. I think that just comes from having, just like as a Black woman, I've had to see pride in a very different intersectionalities. So when I talk about being queer and being part of the LGBTQ plus community, I always think of love. Like if I can lead with love, if I could show up in love, if I can fill a space with love, that's prideful for me.
Beautiful.
Yes. I'd say accepting. Just thinking about different pride parades and being in places where pride is actually celebrated. And going and seeing the different umbrellas that fall under this category, different styles, different ways that people show up. It's so beautiful to see so many differences brought up under the same umbrella and everybody just celebrating each one for being themselves. They're not asking you to come as somebody else. They're not asking you to hide or mask. No, we want you to be you. We are here for you to be you. We love when you are you. That's the most reassuring thing. Even looking back at my first pride that I accidentally went to, like my freshman year of high school in New York City, of all places, and watching my eyes just open up like, yo, I could be whatever I want to be. The acceptance of it all was what gave me that confidence.
How did you accidentally go to Pride?
So I was going shopping with my stepdad and my cousin, both are males, and I seen like all of these rainbow flags and a lot of people. I said, "Oh, let's go!" And I'm like running down the street, and then like speed walking behind me, and like I remember looking at the parades, the different drag queens, everybody dancing. I'm just like in awe because sometimes in this journey you feel alone. Especially if you're not in a space to where it's like all over. I'm from the holy city, Charleston, South Carolina, and being in this space, and it's like, we exist. We exist to the fullest. Nobody's like putting on, oh my, he has on a thong. I love it here. I'm never leaving.
I love that because I think like a lot of times there's misconceptions about what pride is. I think like when straight people look at pride, they're just like, oh, you just want to have a party. And they don't realize that it's so much more than that, especially when we live in conservative areas. I mean, I live in Texas, and it's like, it's not just about dressing up and going to a party. It's about like, I don't feel like I have to be scared to hold my wife's hand, and I don't have to be scared in the same way I might be otherwise. And like you're saying, like that visibility means so much. Also shout out to like our straight allies who are in the audience and who are learning about pride, because like we need y'all, and this is really important. Also, I'm going to move into the last couple questions here, but if you are in the audience and you want to ask a question, you can pop it in the chat. You can use the Q&A. This would be a good time to start doing that so that we can make sure we address them. But I'm going to move into another question. So we know that Gen Z and younger fans, they want authenticity. They want to know that what they're seeing on social media is real. When a team or a sponsor is truly embracing your full identity, how do you think that changes the loyalty and the engagement of that fan base? So, Brenda, sabemos que la generación Z y los aficionados más jóvenes exigen autenticidad. Cuando un equipo o un patrocinador abraza genuinamente su identidad y en su totalidad, ¿cómo cambia esto la lealtad y el nivel de compromiso de la base de seguidores? So, like, how do we see fans responding to that kind of authentic representation? Like, what does it change in how fans are responding?
They support and they show up. That's what people want to see. They want to see themselves in these brands. They want to see themselves as a part. They want to see that representation. So, even for instance, when I did like some Nike Pride campaigns, the amount of people that were just like, "Oh my God, like, yes, I'm gonna go get me a pair of shoes." They just want to feel wanted. They want to feel seen. And by doing these level of partnerships, especially with our community, you open up yourself to a whole new fan base, to a whole new market, to a whole new grouping. And especially, like I said, when you're putting your money where your mouth is and supporting these youth organizations, supporting these communities that are going out, housing people, feeding people, providing resources, job opportunities, educational opportunities, going into these places and cities and making sure that rights and change can happen in a proper way. That's what the people are looking for, and not just the facade of the face value.
Yeah, 100%. I'm very data driven when it comes to what history has shown. And if you are not investing in diversity and inclusion, if you are not investing more specifically in the queer and LGBTQ community, you are losing. You will be on the wrong side of history. We have seen where the dollar signs are. We have seen what that does to elevate brands. And brands become more responsive to fan engagement when they see that dip in sales and when it hits their pockets. So again, whether they're doing it for the right reasons, these brands become larger based on the fans. These brands become bigger and larger, more inclusive based on engagement. You cannot grow your brand without the engagement of Black and Brown, LGBTQ plus. It's just impossible. And that's what the data says. So if brands aren't inclusive in that way, they're going to fail at the end of the day. And why not?
Yeah, absolutely. ¿Y Brenda?
Sí, yo creo que hoy en día no solamente las personas, tus fans o tus seguidores, te siguen por ser atleta, por ser cantante o por tu profesión, sino que también te siguen por tu autenticidad y te siguen por quién eres, más allá de tus logros o de tus medallas, o etcétera. Por ejemplo, la agencia con la que trabajo siempre nos impulsa a subir contenido diferente a solamente nuestras competencias, sino también pues lo que vivimos día a día. Y creo que también es muy importante que como atletas tenemos la responsabilidad de ser un agente de cambio para la sociedad. Y creo que nosotras lo estamos haciendo. Y gracias a eso también las oportunidades se abren y llegamos a más fans de la generación, de generaciones más pequeñas a nosotras, porque justo ellos exigen esa autenticidad. Y yo lo viví a partir del compromiso, empecé a subir más contenido pues, como de la comunidad, y también empecé a subir más contenido de mi boda, por ejemplo, y he llegado a más personas, incluso más chicas que yo, ¿no? Entonces, creo que esa autenticidad te hace llegar a nuevas generaciones.
Definitivamente. And I think like we see fan bases changing, and I think that's often a good thing, right? Because it's like we're seeing fans being drawn into what speaks to them in an authentic way. And I think, that really matters. And I think like also it's important for those brands and those sponsors to see that the fans themselves don't want a one-off kind of tokenistic approach to pride or to inclusion. They want to see an actual authentic investment. And that's my next question. And Tocarra, I'm wondering if we can, not to put you on the spot, but you are like the coach here. So, just going back to you, like when we think about how team owners, league executives, corporate sponsors can really move from tokenism to true partnership with athletes, what does that look like?
You have to invite us in the room, and you have to give us space to contribute to the decisions. It's extremely important to build a bigger table, for sure. And that's why you see the brands who kind of don't leverage that as much. You see these other smaller brands going down and branching out and doing it themselves. The larger brands could take a nod from how inclusive and how open these other brands are being by adding these different introspectives to the conversation. So if you are leadership, if you are, in charge of something, and you have to add the group that you want to target in those conversations. I just don't see you doing it any other way. And it's not just the one or two big faces. You have to dig deeper into those communities and get stories that we haven't heard from. I think what we are tired of, and that speaks to Brenda a little bit more, is that content that we've seen every day, all the time. We're tired of it. And I love this generation basically saying, no, I'm going to make my own content. And the brands who are leaning into that, they are really excelling. So it's not doing the same thing, being a little bit more adventurous in how you sell this content and how you present these brands to leadership, and maybe taking a leap of faith of what that looks like.
Raven, would love to know what you think. Like when you see brands doing it right, what are they doing that shows that they are going more than just beyond just a surface level kind of partnership?
They're actually in the communities. They're doing the groundwork. They're doing the footwork. They're doing the dirty work that most companies are just going to give money just to be done with it. When you see at different parades or different prides, people actually coming out, the representation, they're helping out, they're providing other resources even outside of what the company may offer. They're going above and beyond, doing the things. They're putting out statements to where they may not have to. They're showing up in spaces to where you normally wouldn't expect them to be, but they're still standing behind. It's more than just a dollar sign. It's more than just putting a rainbow on your website. It's more than just posting or retweeting or sharing something on social media. We're real people. We have real lives. We have real struggles. And that's the difference that I've seen is the people that actually get it. Is they're trying to be, or they are on the front line with us.
Absolutely. Just showing that they are not just not just using their words, but are actually like walking the walk.
Exactly.
And Brenda, para ti, ¿qué consejo darías a un equipo, una liga, para pasar del simbolismo a una verdadera colaboración?
Sí, bueno, creo que Tocarra y Raven ya lo dijeron, que no solamente se base en poner un post o un retweet ese día del Pride, sino que durante todo el año haya pues este acompañamiento y esta búsqueda por nuestros derechos, porque muchas veces solamente lo hacen como para quedar bien con la comunidad, pero no se ve genuinamente como auténtico ese apoyo, muchas veces de parte de las instituciones o de parte de las marcas. Solamente lo hacen por seguir la corriente, pero creo que mientras las marcas y las organizaciones y los atletas tengamos los mismos ideales, ya esta Raven ya lo había comentado, que no se trata solamente de dinero, de tener un patrocinador por tener un patrocinador, sino que se trata de realmente tener los mismos o valores parecidos y tener ideales parecidos para que puedas impactar en la sociedad y para que las nuevas generaciones puedan justamente tener más oportunidades y no tener miedo a ser ellos. Mm-hmm.
I love that. And I think what you said about having values that align is really important. And that comes down really to like the culture of the team, of the league, the organization. And like Tocarra mentioned, like who they have in the room making those decisions about who's shaping those policies and those values, that really matters. I want to shift gears a little bit to this question from the Flame Bears CEO and founder, Jamie, who asked about sports media. So we know that sports media has historically been really narrow about who's covered and how they're covered. And so the question is, how can women's sports media do better in the future when it comes to authentically telling the stories of athletes who are playing sports? So, Brenda, históricamente el deporte de mujeres ha sido limitado en quién se cubre y cómo atletas podrían ser cubiertos. ¿Cómo pueden mejorar los medios de comunicación los medios de comunicación en el periodismo deportivo femenino en el futuro? Whoever wants to tap it.
I feel like they could tap into the smaller markets, especially when it comes to women's sports. There's a growing professional softball league. There's a growing flag football league. There's growing basketball leagues. Track and field usually isn't very well covered in the States. There's so many different sports and sporting events that we, like women, that's growing, especially in the States, that I feel like allows for so much more wiggle room for women's sports media to really expand and grow with the markets that are also trying to grow in their own. So it goes hand in hand with the media coverage being able to promote and then the sport itself being able to continue to grow.
Very good points.
Yeah, 100%. I challenge, media, sports media covering women's sports and just queer media in regards to, I think it goes back to what you said earlier, Raven, of just the grassroots boots on the ground. For the most part, we know who the big queer LGBTQ celebs are. We see you, we love you. But underneath that, there are so many amazing stories. You have to put boots on the ground. You have to go into these grassroots leagues and you have to tell better stories. That's just what it is. The storytelling, when it's not done authentically, is borderline, dare I say, basic. So we have to be better about tapping into true conversations of what that looks like. And it's not doing the high level, eye-arching top celebrities that we see on ESPN all the time. Like, you have to go into the small medias and you have to talk to the people who are actually impacting. So that's the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th person on the field or the bench. That's not the first and second, because they're historically getting all the coverage. So I'm challenging the media to dig a little deeper, and maybe that's a little harder work, but that's your job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Sí, bueno, igual coincido completamente. Aquí en México lo que pasa mucho es que siempre son las mismas historias, siempre son los mismos atletas y como ya lo mencionaban, es irte a las historias que muchas veces no se conocen y que creo que pueden impactar mucho. Y también pues no solamente, bueno, aquí en México también se le da mucho reflector a los atletas convencionales y los atletas paralímpicos muchas veces quedamos de lado y específicamente en historias de mujeres, de deportistas, creo que es muy importante. También algo que puede ayudar es que muchos atletas no tienen esta facilidad de oratoria o, por ejemplo, no les gusta mucho tener entrevistas porque les da pena o también no quieren tener tanta exposición, pero creo que también es responsabilidad de nosotros como atletas que más personas se puedan identificar con nuestras historias. Pero yo le recomendaría a los periodistas que busquen justamente esas historias que no son conocidas para que puedan impactar en la vida de otros.
Totally agree. I think so often when people say, "Oh, well, I just don't know who to cover," or when someone's organizing an event and they say, "Well, I couldn't find any queer people to be a part of the event," I say, "Well, how hard did you try to find them?" So, we're out here. We have LGBTQ athletes are everywhere, and it's time for our voices to be heard and for our stories to be told. And that's also why it's so important, and we're so grateful to have had the three of you here today talking about this. And I know we're out of time. I just want to say thank you so much. It just means so much to be able to tell these stories, to get these messages out there, and for the LGBTQ fans out there to see you all and to know that their dreams are possible. Muchas gracias por participar. Y as we close out, if you could just let people know like where they could follow your journey, any closing words you have, si puedes decir dónde pueden seguirte en las redes sociales. Brenda, si quieres empezar.
Sí, bueno, en mi Instagram es donde estoy más activa. Me pueden encontrar con mi nombre, Brenda Osnaya. Osnaya.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you guys for joining the call, and we appreciate you. You can find me at Tocarra, Toccara, Renee, Renee, on all social media platforms. And yeah, happy Pride, have fun, be safe, and go meet someone you probably wouldn't have met before.
You guys can find me at Give Me One Shot. It's the number one shot. 2 underscores on Instagram, no underscores on Twitter, TikTok. I think it's Give Me One Shot. Just look up Raven Saunders and you would probably find me all over social media, Threads, Snapchat. You name it. I'm there. My message, be you, be free, even in spaces that don't want you to be. Happy Pride, enjoy it. Kiss a stranger, love yourself, love others, live it up.
Amazing. Happy Pride, everyone. You can also follow Flame Bearers across social channels and on YouTube. We have episodes rolling out all this month with LGBTQ athletes. And this Wednesday, we'll be dropping an episode with Laisha Clarendon, who is a recent WNBA. Well, they're always going to be a superstar, but they recently retired from the WNBA. Thank you all so much for joining us. And we'll be sharing this on YouTube and on social media. So stay tuned. Thanks, everyone.
Yes.